Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Visual Studio Toolbox, Visual Studio 2026 edition. I'm your host, Leslie Richardson, and we're talking not just about Visual Studio 2026, but specifically one of the first things that you might notice when you are opening it up for the first time after installing it, and that is the new UX experience. So, joining me to talk about that today is Ruben Rios from the Visual Studio team. Hey, Ruben,
Hello, Leslie. Hi, everybody.
how are you doing?
Doing good. A little bit under the weather, so hanging in there with
Oh,
me. But
tis the
excited to
season.
show you guys all about this stuff. Yeah.
Great. Before we jump in, tell us about yourself. What are you working on these days? Probably
Yeah.
UX stuff,
So,
sounds like.
I guess you were saying, right? I'm a program manager in the Visual Studio team. Right now, one of the main things we're looking at, or I'm looking at in particular, right, is this all new experience or UI refresh, right? Which it's all about trying to make things more consistent, improving personalization, right? And we'll jump into a little bit of that in a little bit. But yeah, like that's one of the things I'm working on, in a couple other areas in the IDE. But primarily, I want to chat with you guys about the UI refresh today.
Sweet. And so I know like whenever I talk about the new UX experience, the most I'm personally able to say is that it looks nice. So can you tell us a little bit from your perspective about like what were some of the main tenets or goals going into redesigning how VS looks that
Yeah, no,
most people may not
there's
consider?
really a lot to say about that, and I mean, we could invite the design team really to do a deep dive into a lot of that. But in reality, right, like some of the main things that I personally love about this whole redesign is consistency and personalization. For those of us who have been using Visual Studio for a little bit, right? Especially things like the all tools options experience, you could tell, consistency was not necessarily the best it could be, right? You could see different platforms being used, like
Yeah.
WPF controls in some cases, all their controls, right? And that kind of experience is one of the things that we wanted to improve upon with this redesign, right? So consistency is one of the main tenets here. So whenever you use the IDE, it feels the same, right? Looks the same, and you know what you're using, regardless of how old or new that experience was, right? So that's one of the main core tenets that I personally love about this redesign, and personalization, right? Just making sure that you can make the IDE your own, right? Because that's certainly important to developers, just being able to tailor that to fit their needs. So those two in particular are two things that I personally love about this redesign, right? So um, we can see how that all transpires across the IDE through refreshed typography, iconography, improved layout, right? But those are some of the main ones that I personally love.
Cool. Consistency and customizability, the two C's. I like it. Yeah, in addition to UX, I think on the customizability side, we're also gonna be talking about settings in this video as well. So, lots of exciting stuff there as far as like persistence between versions and things as well, and
A lot of work
other
has
new
gone into
additions.
that for sure.
Yeah. Sweet. So I'm ready to dive in if you are.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, let's do that. Happy to jump in. Let me share my screen, and the first thing you'll see, right, is that we've worked in improving those getting started experiences for Visual Studio, right? This is that one of the first screens that you can see we redesigned, right, where you can just select the project that you've been working on. We roam this for sure once you sign in, right? So if you were working on a project on a different machine, once you sign in, we'll roam this with you whenever you go, so it's easier to jump right in. But for now, let me just skip ahead, continue without code, to show you a little bit more about how the UI looks and feel. You can see right away. Let me actually open up what's new, which if you're just launching it for the first time, right, you'll see what's new. You can see it's a all new interface as well. We've done work here to make it look better, more consistent, and actually simplify how you understand what updates have been made, right? Because perhaps you only
Mhm.
care about a specific area, like what's going on in debugging and diagnostics. And now we made it a lot easier just to understand what those are all about, right? But you can
Yeah.
see that work has gone throughout the whole IDE, right? You may remember I mentioned iconography, right? There's not a lot of icons here, but you can definitely tell like they have been refreshed, right? But it's not just about these getting started experiences. Editor, debugger, diagnostics, Copilot, all of these have been improved as part of the UI refresh.
Yeah, I love to see it, especially even just the what's new page, which if you're not using that what's new page, people, you should, especially if you're following like the insiders builds and you just want to see what's always being introduced on now a monthly basis. So like, yeah, and also it's well organized now. Like that used to not be the case, so that's great. So
Yeah, no, definitely a lot of improvements have been made just in the getting started experience itself,
I
right?
know, very streamlined.
Yep, yep. And remember, we talked briefly about personalization, right? We've added a ton of settings and features to help you better personalize your experience, right? For instance, we've added a ton of themes to help you personalize that experience that you're liking. Not just themes, but you may notice now there's an editor appearance setting right under it, right? Which will allow you to change how the editor looks and feels. And you could decide to, for instance, have the theme being dark for the overall IDE, but the editor you may want it to be light, right? So now you have the ability to set that even closer to your preference, which wasn't there before.
So now you
You
can have it both ways. It's exciting.
yeah. So in fact, let me do a quick change here. I'm gonna go from the dark to cool slate, and it's not gonna be a huge change, but I do want to show you. Yeah, you noticed that it
Hey,
just changed there, right? But it's super easy how. Let me actually change something else as well to spicy red to make it even more
nice.
noticeable.
Moonlight
You
Glow
can
is my
see
personal favorite.
which one?
Moonlight Glow, the like royal blue colored one.
Let me just put that on then. Uh, yeah, so you can see how easy it is to switch your themes, right? You can just do that from that menu. And the good thing about this is that your settings, your editor settings, such as font family, size, and other style settings, they all kind of they don't go away. They just move forward, right, with any of these uh, changes. So that means that your personalization doesn't start over, right? You don't lose any of these settings, which is it's a great thing, of course, right? We want to make sure that the experience is as seamless for you as possible, right? But talking about settings, Leslie, let's actually go to the new options experience.
I love that it's a tab now. I know that's existed technically in later versions of 2022, but it's still being expanded on as I'm sure you're about to show off.
Yeah, no, we definitely been working on this for a little while. There were some previews about it, but now we're finally at a point where we are like, yep, no, we feel good about this. Let's make it the default experience for Visual Studio. That's not to say that we're all the way done, right?
Yeah.
There's some settings that
Still
we
more some
still
advanced settings there.
yeah, yeah, definitely. There's some settings that we need to port over. For instance, if you go to a category, right, you can go to the more settings and you'll see some of the things that we still need to work on, right? So that's how we are organized and try to simplify how you can get to those settings that haven't been ported over. But we're definitely working, with teams across the product to make sure that these settings are ported as soon as possible because we want to have a seamless experience for everybody here. But back to the change that we just did. What I wanted to show you now is that you saw that we changed to midnight to the midnight. What's the name of
Glow,
it? The
I
midnight
think it's
glow
yeah.
theme, right? What I wanted to show you is that it's not just seamless to do so, but it's way more transparent now, right? What I mean by that is if I were to click on the edit user settings as JSON button now, we'll see a new JSON file that kind of tells us what has changed, what settings you have overwritten, right? So for instance, here, you can see that we changed the color theme to Midnight Glow, right? So now it's a lot easier to see what changes are there. It's a lot easier to perhaps pass this over to a different person, a different machine once you roam, right? So it's super transparent what's going on with settings, which didn't used to be the case before this. So I'm pretty
Yeah.
excited.
This is kind of similar to what VS Code does with their settings today too, right?
Yep,
Like there's a JSON
exactly,
file that you can
exactly.
edit and share. Cool.
Yeah. So internally, actually, we refer to this as the unified settings experience, right? And the reason for that is, as you can see now, rather than have a lot of different controls all over the place or layout that it's not perhaps as consistent, now it actually is all unified, right? It's all consistent and unified because there's a central kind of a definition of how things kind of feel and behave across the tools experience, the tools options experience.
Awesome.
The actually, let me show you one last thing here. Let me open up a different solution, and it's already open, so we could speed up and didn't have to, wait through all of that. But as you can see here, this one looks different, right?
Yeah.
Different color
Mango
scheme,
paradise.
different everything. And the reason for that is that we've added now the ability to set settings not just at the user level, but also set settings at the solution level. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing here.
That was a user ask for a while.
Yes, right. So you can see here now that we are overriding the scope, right, by of mainline glow by passing in the Mango Paradise setting here, right. So if I actually
Mhm.
let me select here the solution, right, and this is actually what I wanted to show you earlier. We now have the ability to set settings at the user scope, but also show settings at the solution in our folder scope, right. So because of this, I can now select the solution scope and set whatever I want here for my settings, right? So in this case, I just decided to change the theme to make it more obvious what that change was. So if I go to my JSON file now, you can see that we are also catching that in the solution scope, right? So I can come have as many solutions as I want with as different themes as I want to make it super clear which is which for our users, which, as you said, is been a request from users for a while now. So a
Yeah,
lot of
like
cool stuff, a lot of powerful stuff here.
that is so great. Like I feel like I myself and so many other people I've talked to have had the case of having like multiple solutions open, and and you want to make it easy on yourself to figure out which window is which, because it can be hard to keep up with what's corresponding to what solution and stuff at 2
Mhm.
a.m. So it's nice to have at least
Yeah,
distinct
yeah,
themes and settings for each one. Yeah.
yeah.
So that is a long time coming.
Yeah, no, pretty excited about all of this, right? It's been a long time coming, as we've talked about earlier. It's this is a journey, really, right? There might be areas of the IDE that we're still working on, so definitely looking forward to hearing from the community, kind of logging those tickets on the developer community to let us know, hey, you missed this, which is dear to me, right? Like, go look at it. Definitely looking forward to kind of the feedback from the community. But we're pretty excited about this because we definitely believe this is a huge step forward for Visual Studio in terms of both the UI refresh as well as settings and consistency, transparency, and all the great things that we're doing here.
Yeah, and I gotta say on like the UX side of things, usually every time we put out a new version of VS, there's a lot of like heated opinions on how people feel about the slightly different changes that are made, and I feel like it's mostly skewed positive this time around. Maybe
Yeah,
because of the circles I'm hanging out in, but like even just viewing the chat on .NET Conf, which happened recently, right? Like during the keynote and when we were talking about GA release of 2026, a lot of positivity towards just what it looks like now, which is cool. I feel like I hadn't seen
yeah.
that in a version release before.
No, for sure. I mean, and we get it, right? Like people are very passionate about this subject, right? They want to make sure that like as we were discussing, right, this can be personalized to fit their needs. So there's a lot of really passionate people, or a lot of vocal people out there, and that's why we really try to work with the community here, right? We reach out to the community through interviews, surveys, like like studies. Like we constantly reach out to the developer community, and we try to have that communication going all the time, right? Because without that, it's really hard to kind of release the things that the community will appreciate. Now we know we don't always get everything right, of course, right? It's hard to do that, but
Totally.
we're definitely trying really to have a great product that people feel proud and love to use here.
Sweet. Yeah. And I feel like UX and settings in particular, both customizable things, they're very subjective things for
100%.
everybody. So yeah, you're not going to please everybody, but hey, if you're able to reach most people, that's cool. So if people do want to share their feedback and stuff, is the dev community still the way to go?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely depends on what is it, right? Like, you can go to the tool actually, right? You can go to help
Yeah.
there, and send feedback, right? There's a report of problems, suggest a feature, and that ultimately will connect you to the developer community portal, right? So you could
Mhm.
either go this way or go to the portal directly, but this is definitely the best way to reach out to us. Provide as detailed feedback as possible, right? And the good thing about it, right, is the community kind of vote, the issue, right, and can let us know how important this is for them, right? That's a great signal for us, because otherwise, without that, it may be that, like, it's not something that the majority of the community cares about. And of course, like, we have so many things to try to figure out, and we may not be able to prioritize that one ask, but at the very least, maybe in a future update, we may be able to, if we notice that the community at large kind of interest on a specific area there.
Yeah. Also, +1 towards going to the developer community via Visual Studio, like this method, because it also carries over system info, which is great for both sides, because we don't have to spend time doing a follow-up with you asking for that information that might be important, like version and stuff, because it's already there, and then you don't have to make sure you follow up so that we can actually address the problem or the feature request and stuff. So
for sure, there's a lot of technical information that we sometimes need. We're working on a lot of great features that really require a lot of insights, right? So going through those channels gives us that, so that way we can have a seamless communication and less back and forth, I guess, to understand the root cause of the problem. So definitely, that's super helpful to have.
Sweet. So you mentioned that the settings, there's more to come in the unified settings experience, but is there anything else that you're able to share about what's next, or should people
Well,
just
like I said, right, like, we're reaching out to the community to understand, what next areas we're working on. One of the main things that I personally care about is being able to port more and more settings, right? So we're constantly looking at the telemetry, what people are using the most on unified settings, or the overall settings experience, right? As we actually call it publicly. We're definitely trying to port as many of that features that are not quite there, right? So working with partner teams to make sure that the experience is consistent and seamless, right? So that's one of the main goals that I personally have, but definitely improving the overall user experience, right? So you may hear from us through surveys or interviews, or reach out to the developer community to ask more about, how do you feel? How's the search, right? How's the discoverability, right? So we may be able to continue iterating, because we definitely want to have a great experience here, right? One of the areas that we want to have be as transparent, as great as possible, is roaming. In the past, roaming has been a black box. You don't necessarily know what settings are being roamed and whatnot. Right? We've done a lot of work to try and clarify some of that, but we still have more to do, right? In case there's conflicts, we want to show what the conflicts are, right? So those are some of the things that we're thinking about. But yeah, maybe next time I can show you more of what's maybe more realistically coming within the next few updates. But for now, I'll say we're definitely looking into a lot of areas, not just in settings, right, but overall, and how we can continue making the experience great for our users.
Awesome. Well, Ruben, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Sweet. And to everyone watching, if you haven't downloaded and tried out VS 2026 yet, you totally should. What are you doing? It's there. Use it. Try out all the new themes. Try out the settings that carry over. So, if you have been hesitant to move to the latest major version in the past because of all the settings that you're going to have to reset and stuff, you don't have to do that. You shouldn't have to do that. So give it a try. If you're still not jazzed about certain things, feel free to go on DevCom, tell your friends to upvote your request and bugs and stuff. And yeah, just try it out. So till next time, thanks again, Ruben. Thanks everybody, and happy coding, y'all. See you soon.
Bye.